That's interesting, isn't it? I remember once I got a subtle, I haven't had many directions from my spiritual master, you know. One first, some of your initiatives said, don't leave the association of devotees. That's all he said, you know. But then later on he gave me a subtle, I could tell you a subtle instruction. I couldn't follow it. And I thought, things are going on alright. It's alright. And then all of a sudden, everything fell apart. Oh, and did I get into a lot of hassle. And you just learn that I'm never going to do that again, you know. Whatever he says I'm going to do. So you got a good lesson, you know what I mean? So sometimes we have to learn by the school of hard knocks. The first class disciple, he learns by, he intuitively, he knows what the spiritual master wants, and he does it. Second one, he has to hear. Third one, he has to see somebody who's not followed, what happens to him, you know. And fourth one, what we do, he don't follow. That's what I learned at fourth class. It weren't an instruction actually, it was an indication. He probably knew I won't be able to follow it. So he didn't make it a solid thing, you know. Because then there's a bigger reaction. Kindly understand this example, father and guru. Just as one respects one's father as a guru, the father's older and younger brothers are also similarly respected, but nonetheless the father is worthy of most respect. Notwithstanding the above, if the father's guru, even if he is family related, that means the family guru, comes, one should double the respect as he is the spiritual master of the father or the guru of the guru. He is offered twice the puja or respect. So usually we don't initiate in front of the spiritual master, do we? We usually, the injunction is that while ever the spiritual master is alive, his disciples don't initiate. But in ISKCON as well, it's happened now, is that the spiritual master is giving permission for the disciples to initiate. So sometimes that may happen with a qualified disciple, or in the case of ISKCON is a succession. The gurus are reducing Prabhupada disciples, so they have to be replenished, and so they're giving experience to the disciples to take on that service. But here it says, even if, if the father's guru, even if he is family related, so there's such a thing as family guru. It means, you know, the guru is the guru because it's guru for everybody in the family, and everybody else takes shelter of him, whether they've had a chance to see he's qualified or not. And so even if the guru is like that, he's actually the guru of your guru. So you give him twice as much respect. This behavior is recognized as appropriate by all authorities. Just as if during daily life the brothers older or younger of the father criticize him, still one takes shelter of one's father. Similarly, one remains under the shelter of one's own spiritual master, even if he is criticized by his older or younger brothers. Just as one depends upon one's father for one's livelihood, one must depend upon the strength of the spiritual master for advancing in devotional service. It shouldn't happen that. You shouldn't be criticising your guru in front of you. But if there is some criticism and you hear about it, then you don't think, yeah, they're right. You don't think like that. You still take shelter of the group because everybody makes mistakes, right? But, you know, devotional service is not like it's a bit flexible depending on, you know, the mood of the disciple, the situation, so many things, so many variables are there. At the end of the day, what's Krishna looking for?
Sincereness.
He's looking for sincerity of heart. And you know, I knew one devotee, we called him Vishnu Shakti. Oh, he was rough around the edges. He was really rough. But you know, he was a Scotsman. And but you know, he had a heart of gold. He couldn't get things right, you know. And he used to swear sometimes. Due to habit. But you could see, you know, he was actually a nice person. Okay, I've written something here. So there's parallel lines of authority. You know about this. Parallel lines of authority. Oh no, not two. What does that mean? It means that in ISKCON we have a GBC, right? They're both spiritual and managerial, but primarily managerial. In relationship, you get initiation from a guru, right? This is separate from them. It may be one of them, but he's separate usually. So who do you follow?
Follow your guru because your guru will be following the GBC.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Any other answer? So parallel lines of authority means that both authorities should be singing from the same song sheet. So, you know, whatever message you get is agreeable, they both agree. Otherwise, the disciple plays one off against the other, which instruction he likes best to follow. And what else does it say about that? Any other questions on that one? Parallel lines of authority.
Yes, when there is a friction, then that's when you know that there's something
Oh,
wrong.
that's the thing I want to, before I forget, I'll just mention this. Is that generally, this is actually GBC law. There's a paper called, so you know how to follow it. And generally, the GBC are the ultimate authority within ISKCON. So, you know, the spiritual master comes under the GBC. But still, he's actually your spiritual authority. Because he won't disobey, he won't disagree with what the GBC say. He may disagree, but he won't actually implement it. Okay. You can see eyes are actually starting to get diverted. We'll do one more, shall we?
Yeah.
In this world, what kind of person is there who can remain alive at the expense of his father's or guru's defamation or disgrace? So what should he do if someone defends the guru?
Defend the guru.
Defames. Difficult one, isn't it? You should actually defeat him. You know what I mean? You should argue to the contrary, or speak to one of your senior godbrothers to do it. Maybe that's the better. But in a respectful way, that's the thing. You can't do it in any other way. But it's leave that one, you know, especially if that happens to access another senior devotee. When that happens, there's different modes, and sometimes, you know, gurus they'll not be so happy with another guru who's actually preaching, and vice versa maybe. But we shouldn't get involved so much if that's the case. If it's just a disagreement between them two, it's just a disagreement between, don't get involved. Let me sort it out. I say, if we're practicing Krishna consciousness, a lot of these things become second nature. You know, we get a feeling what we should do. And so, but then we should confirm it.
I once asked Joe about this parallel lines of duty, because on one hand you shouldn't kill, but on the other hand the government tells you to go out and kill.
Yeah. What we're supposed to do.
Who said in the book, so and so has to fight, so they have to go out and kill.
Or do not have to fight.
What?
I think what she means is, in case they say, are you talking in terms of violence, non-violence?
I think there's a big battle in
Yeah,
yeah. And he said, if there's a battle in there, then it's the same for us. If the government tells us to go out and kill, we kill.
You have to remember that the government is demoniac.
So Joe's long, we have long talks about it.
Just like, you know, when part of the Vietnam War was going on, and some of the devotees got, you know, they used to have a lottery to see and get numbers, and all the picked out they'd go. And some devotees had to go to Vietnam. And Shamasundra were one of them. Oh no, it wasn't Shamasundra. Another devotee, he managed to get out of it actually. But I know Chandramouli Swami, you know Chandramouli Swami? He was sent out to Vietnam. Oh, he's just pretty nice. And they were flying over in a helicopter above the jungle, you know, in Southeast Asia. And all of a sudden the helicopter, he must have got hit or something. And it just dropped, you know, it's not like an aeroplane which flies. It just dropped. And, you know, I don't think they had time to even think. And it hit the trees and it just went, it came to a stop. They all got out.
Wow. One choice. Yeah.
Probably because Chandramouli Swami were on it. If Raki Krishna Marike, Nani Krishna Rakike. If Krishna wants to kill you, nobody can stop him. And if he wants to save you, nobody can stop him.
Well, for the government it's a form of calling.
Eh?
For the government it's a form of calling.
Government.
Yeah. It's a
No, the
form of
government-
calling the population.
Yeah, but they're demoniac, they don't know what they're doing. You know, sometimes we get caught up in like we make decisions out of corner if we can't avoid it. But when we're on about spiritual lines of authority, we're on about the government of the movement. The ones who are running the movement and the spiritual masters who are giving initiation. We're not talking about the government. You know, we don't try and power over them. We have to actually follow the law of the land.
Yeah.
But you know, otherwise we'll get in trouble. But we, you know,
It's very difficult though, because I was brought up Catholic, And one of the commandments is thou shalt not kill. And yet the government tells us to go out and kill.
Well, it depends. I mean, how Jonah killed.
That's exactly what, that's what Job said.
Yeah, I mean, there's war. This war which is taking place around the world, these wars, they're just for people who are trying to make profit. They don't care about the soldiers who are fighting, they only care about themselves. So it's not actually a proper war, it's just a demoniac fight. And what's actually happening is Krishna is letting them fight so they kill one another. It's wiping out all the demons. I won't say that outside here, but I mean, you know what I mean? That's what's happening. And religious war means that, we're fighting because it's Krishna's will. Because some people, they can't actually, they won't follow, they become so antagonistic that there's nothing you can do.
I don't know about that because
But what about,
the children in Gaza, the children, there's dying babies, the children.
well, that's not a religious war. That's not a religious war. So that, a religious war means you don't fight it in among civilians. It means that the leader, he goes in front and is first into battle. Not sat behind his desk while everybody else is fighting, that's the first thing. And it's not fought in the middle of the city where everybody gets blown to pieces. They go out and they fight out of the way. And just the fighters fight, and the winner, he starts to rule the kingdom. That's what it used to be in this country even. When, Richard III, and, and Oliver Cromwell. It wasn't that everybody were involved, it was just the fighters that were involved, weren't it? I mean, obviously there will be some casualties, but you know what I mean? Okay. So I'll just do another one while we're there. Everyone considers that if their spiritual master is very powerful, then he himself is powerful. But that if his spiritual master is less powerful, then he is therefore weaker, and according to the attitude of the spiritual master, the disciple gains the same attributes. Is that the truth?
Yeah. Does it mean if the disciple is more powerful than the spiritual master? Spiritually more powerful?
I'll read it again, shall I?
Yeah.
Everyone considers that if their spiritual master is very powerful, then he himself is powerful. But that if his spiritual master is less powerful, then he is therefore weaker. And according to the attitude of the spiritual master, the disciple gains the same attributes. So we get everything the spiritual master is. What do you think?
Not sure, man. I think we should always be humble before the spiritual master. We can't say we're the same.
Okay, let's see what it says. Those disciples who are intelligent can understand the desires of the spiritual master directly through their intelligence. Other disciples who are less intelligent understand by directly hearing instructions from the spiritual master. These activities are being practiced since time immemorial. So it's the instructions that follow instructions are going. Some, if we're actually really in tune with a spiritual master, we can actually we're like we're empowered to do what he wants us to do. But if we're not so intelligent, then he has to tell us. And if we follow his instructions, we become empowered. You know what I mean? Prabhupada empowered his devotees. He said, I want you to start a printing press to, I forget what it was, I meant to be on Ram Nanda or something like that. Prabhupada, I've never seen a printing press. He said, don't worry, Krishna will help you. I know one devotee were in Seattle. You know Seattle? Where is it? America.
Western Europe.
It's West Coast, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's near Vancouver, Seattle, and they called him actually Mahatma. You know Mahatma? He'd been a brahmachari for a whole year, and at that time, that was a long time, and somehow or other they needed a temple president in Seattle, and you know, so they voted him as temple president, and they were completely flabbergasted. They said, and so second, I can't, and so they insisted. So he wrote to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, they put me as temple president, I ain't got a clue what to do. And Prabhupada wrote back and says, that's good. He said, you should think the whole project will collapse unless Krishna steps in. And it works. When you depend on Krishna, it works. As soon as you start getting to, you know, thinking that you're the Lord, everything goes pear-shaped, you know. Okay, what's happening there? Go a bit further. Okay. Learned Vaishnava authorities say that these instructions are the perfection of religiosity. If the spiritual master commits a wrongful act breaking Vaishnava regulative principles, then in that case one should in a solitary place confront him for his rectification using logic and appropriate conclusions from Sadhu, Shastra and Guru references. One is not to give him up. So that's one case where you can't actually put somebody in public. You see that something tell him. Who else is going to tell him? Nobody. I say, who else is going to tell him if he actually starts to act inappropriately? He's not following the relative principles.
I thought, Maharaj, that in the Guru Disciple course, it mentioned about that if you became very fallen like that, you could actually reject him.
Well, we shall talk about that later. Bewildered about what he should or shouldn't do. One should not be hesitant or fearful because one is confronting or challenging a spiritual master, for it has been prescribed that one must appropriately discipline each spiritual master who is bewildered about what he should and shouldn't do. You've got to help him. Or if he's bewildered, or who is inexperienced or ignorant, who has deviated from the Krishna conscious path, or if he is bewildered by false pride. This statement of the revealed scriptures is applicable at all times under all circumstances. The material behavior of the Vaishnava devotees is to take complete refuge of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, accepting him as their spiritual and real shelter. The very life of the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord is singing and the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna, describing and expanding the fame of Sri Krishna and discussing nectar of his transcendental pastime. So that's the saving grace. We're taking shelter of the spiritual master, but we're also taking shelter of Krishna. Obviously, there's no difference if the spiritual master is in good standing. But we always keep our discrimination. We don't overlook it, otherwise there'll be catastrophe. If we don't, then we'll start doing the same thing. The authorized course of action is to continue as before with one's prescribed devotional service. One may take guidance through or instructions from the Vaishnavas, as all Vaishnavas are considered Guru or spiritual master, or one must use one's own intelligence, duly considering the relevant instructions from Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. In all cases, one should continue in one's devotional service. So we shouldn't be fazed if anything happens. However, if the spiritual master acts envious towards Ishvara Brahma, that which is connected with the Supreme, is bewildered regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is averse to expanding the fame of Lord Krishna, personally refuses to accept hearing or chanting about the glorious pastimes of Sri Krishna, has become totally bewildered listening to the false praise of ignorant persons, and day by day is more materially contaminated and fallen, then the spiritual master must be renounced. It means if it irrevocably is fallen, it can't be rectified then. But we shouldn't do it. This sort of thing will be dealt with by authorities, like the GBC ultimately, and they'll give direction. Under those circumstances, one should not doubt, how can I give up my spiritual master? With a strong desire for achieving spontaneous devotional service and attaining the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a devotee accepts the shelter of a spiritual master. If that spiritual master takes on asuric qualities or a demoniac mentality, then it is one's duty to reject such a demon, asura, guru, and in this place accept a Krishna conscious spiritual master and worship him. By taking shelter of the strength of the Krishna conscious spiritual master's devotional service, the ill effects of contamination of the demoniac previous spiritual master is counteracted and destroyed. These activities are recommended by all Vaishnava authorities as the authorized conclusion of the Shastra. So if the spiritual master falls down, he's saying here he should take shelter of somebody else, because then he'll be able to actually undo what, because he may have been falling down over a period of time, and you start to actually take on the same mode and qualities unbeknowingly. So you need to take shelter of somebody who can actually correct you and put you back on path. Because we may not be on path at that point. And it happens. And then what they do is carry on. It's the same mode. And then what happens is there's some problems. We become like our association. By taking shelter of the strength of Krishna and Spirit Master. Oh, that's right. During the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there have been many practical examples of this. This concludes the deliberation and final conclusion of Sadhu Shastra on Guru, on the spiritual master and relation masters. Okay. Any questions? I'll be waiting. the key is, you don't accept things blindly. Prabhupada's disciples used to question him like anything. They used to question him like, you know, they were intelligent people and used to be questioning, put in the right mood. Sometimes I listen to Prabhupada's tapes and they're like questioning him like, asking him so many questions. I remember Thomas Krishna Maharaj, he was questioning Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said one thing, then in the next sentence he said another. And Thomas Krishna, you could tell he were a little bit duped. He said, but you said, and then he stopped himself. You know what I mean? You know, you can't do that. You just said that, you can't do that. Yes, what would you say? Guru Maharaj, can you clarify this? I'm a little bit bewildered. On the one hand, this seems to be, on the other hand, this seems, how do we actually reconcile them, you know?
Oh, no, let him wake up.
Screams the house down.
Let him wake up.
I was looking at him earlier and he was trying to play the drum and thinking, what's the little voice now?
Yeah, the moment he came, he got attracted to the mridanga.
Seriously.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Nice that you it's my
I would not say that is a
Sometimes,
Sheffield.
yeah.